Welcome to Stoic Writ, where ancient wisdom meets modern life. In today's video, we begin the very first episode of our 7-part series, The Stoic Way. Exploring a profound perspective of Stoic philosophy, not just to understand it, but to live it boldly in a world full of chaos and change. So let me ask you this. Have you ever lost your cool, just because of a single comment? Maybe it was a thoughtless remark someone left under a post you cared deeply about. Maybe it was a half-joking, half-serious comment from a family member that hit a nerve. Or maybe it was just a look, a cold glance from a coworker, no words, but enough to keep you up at night. Just one moment, one reaction. And suddenly, everything inside you shifts. Your mind starts racing like it's scrambling to find something, anything, to fight back with. Your heart pounds. That voice in your head screams, "Why would they say that?" You feel the urge to reply, to call back, to defend yourself. Not because you were wrong, but because it feels like not reacting means surrendering. You want to react? To prove something. To protect yourself. To show that you won't be disrespected. I think we've all been there. But no one ever taught us this. Sometimes, not reacting isn't weakness. It's a higher form of strength, deeper, quieter, more mature. I remember once getting into an argument with a close friend. It wasn't even a big deal, just a small disagreement on a project. But I felt disrespected, and I snapped. I texted back sharply. Then I called him, my tone still tense. My reaction? Like a wave, fast, loud, uncontrolled. But my friend? He stayed silent. He didn't argue, didn't raise his voice, he just listened. And I got even angrier. His silence felt worse than a heated response. But 2 days later, something shifted in me. I started wondering, why did I explode like that over one comment? And him? He chose not to react. Not because he didn't care, but because he understood that reacting in anger would only make things worse. Have you ever met people like that? They don't yell when things get tense. They don't snap back when they're disrespected. They don't need to be loud to be heard. Instead, they just stay calm. They watch. They listen. They feel. And then, they choose how to respond, not react. And what I admire most isn't that they stay silent. It's that they don't let themselves get pulled into the emotional storm someone else is stirring up. They're not numb. They're not avoiding conflict. They just don't let temporary emotions control long-term actions. So what makes them different? Were they born like that? Do they have some kind of calmness gene the rest of us don't? No. The truth is, calm isn't a personality trait. It's a practice, like a muscle, like a skill. And the way they trained that muscle comes from something ancient, something the modern world is slowly forgetting. A philosophy of life that dates back to ancient Rome and Greece, called Stoicism philosophy. Now, Stoicism isn't just some dusty academic theory stuck in old books. It's not just those inspiring quotes you post on Instagram. It's a way of life. A lens to view the world. A method to master yourself, in the middle of chaos. And there's one core belief in Stoicism that changes everything. It's not what happens to you that defines who you are. It's how you respond to it that does. You can't control everything, but you can control yourself. You don't get to choose what others say to you. But you do get to choose how you respond. You can't stop people from trying to hurt you. But you can choose whether that hurt gets to run your life. And when that truth clicks, everything changes. Instead of losing sleep over a comment, you scroll past it and use your time for something meaningful. Instead of arguing just to win, you stay quiet to protect your peace. Instead of letting anger take the wheel, you let reason steer the car. Now I'm not saying it's easy. Staying calm while someone pushes your buttons, that's an art. It's not passive. It's powerful. It takes strength, intentionality, and deep inner discipline. And because it's hard, that's exactly why it matters. You know what? In a world where everyone is racing to have the last word, the one who chooses not to react right away, that's the person who actually holds the power. So let me ask you. Have you ever wondered, why do I lose my temper so easily? Why can one sentence throw me into chaos? If you've ever asked those questions, then this episode is for you. The story of a father who once couldn't control his emotions. The lesson from the Stoic teacher Epictetus. And how you, yes, you, can begin to practice the art of not reacting, so you can live deeper and more peacefully. So come with me, as we explore the power of not reacting, hold the impulse, choose peace. Part 1. The story of a father, from outburst to inner peace. Let me tell you a true story. Not from a book, but from real life. Where philosophy doesn't live on paper, but in the actions of real people. His name is John, 43 years old, living in Minnesota. John's a structural engineer, works full-time, has 2 young kids, a boy, 8, and a girl, 5. He's the type of guy who shows up. Responsible, steady, loves his family, works hard, tries to do the right thing. But John had a problem. He had a short fuse. He didn't yell all the time. He wasn't abusive. But little things would set him off, fast. A traffic jam on the way to work. His kid spilling milk. His wife coming home late without texting. An email from his boss with a condescending tone. A comment from a coworker that rubbed him the wrong way. It didn't take much. Just a spark, and he'd blow up. He used to tell himself he was just direct. That he'd cool off quickly. That he was just being a man, firm and clear. But that all changed, one cold winter afternoon. That day, John came home after a brutal workday, 3 back-to-back meetings. Headache pounding. Outside, it was freezing. Snow piled high, temperatures below zero. He walked through the door, coat still on, coffee in hand. And then, his 8-year-old son came running to hug him. But as the boy ran, he slipped and crashed into John. The hot coffee spilled all over his jacket. Papers in his work bag got soaked. Coffee dripped onto the wooden floor. And just like that, the anger rose up like fire. Without thinking, John shouted, "Can't you be more careful? I just walked in the door and you've already messed everything up." The boy froze, eyes wide. And in that moment, John saw something he hadn't noticed before. His son's eyes weren't just afraid. They were hurt, disappointed, wounded. The boy turned and ran to his room. Slammed the door. Said nothing. John stood there, holding an empty cup. Coffee dripping onto the floor. Silence. And all he could hear was the sound of his own heartbeat and one question echoing in his head. What did I just do? That night, John couldn't sleep. He wasn't thinking about work. Not the coffee, not the jacket. Just his son's eyes. And one haunting question. Why did something so small turn me into that kind of man? For the first time in his life, John felt ashamed of how he reacted. Not because someone told him he was wrong, but because he knew he had lost his peace and hurt the person he loved most over a momentary emotional impulse. The next morning, driving to work, John stumbled upon an episode of the Daily Stoic podcast. The host was reading a quote from Epictetus, a Stoic philosopher. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. John pulled his car over. Sat there. Repeated that quote over and over in his head. It's not what happens, it's how you react. And right there, on the side of the road, John had a realization. His whole life, he had been giving power to small things. From that moment on, John made a decision. He was going to change. It wasn't easy. So he started with one simple rule. Anytime I feel myself getting angry, I'll pause for 3 seconds. Just 3 seconds. But those 3 seconds saved him from countless arguments. Those 3 seconds helped him stop before saying something he'd regret. Those 3 seconds slowly transformed him from someone who reacted instinctively, right-pointing arrow, to someone who responded intentionally. He started journaling every night. Just answering one question. How did I respond to stress today? Some days, he did well. Some days, not so much. But he watched himself, day by day. And that changed everything. 2 months later, on John's birthday, his son handed him a little handmade card. On it, scribbled in crooked handwriting, were just a few words. Dad, you're my best friend. I'm not scared anymore when I spill milk. John cried when he read it. Not because his son complimented him, but because John knew That little boy could feel the shift inside his father. That's the quiet power of Stoicism. It doesn't ask you to be a superhero. It doesn't demand you to suppress emotion. It simply teaches you how to choose your response, so you can protect what matters more than anger. Your peace. Your connection. Your love. John's story isn't a miracle. It's a reminder of this truth. Anyone can learn to master their emotions. You don't need to be a philosopher. You just need to be human, willing to be a little better than you were yesterday. And you can start like John did. Just 3 seconds of stillness. One question at the end of your day. And the realization that you're not a prisoner of your emotions. You're the driver of them. Up next, we'll dive deeper into Stoic philosophy. What truly gives calm people their inner strength? Why are they called the silent warriors? And how you can become one of them, starting today. Part 2: Stoicism, the philosophy of choosing silence. Silence, to many people, looks like weakness. Like you've got nothing to say. Like you're giving up. But to a Stoic, silence isn't surrender. It's self-mastery. Think back to the last time you were angry. Someone insulted you. Someone twisted your words. You were misunderstood, blamed, dismissed. What was your first feeling? Your face got hot, your chest tightened. Your fists clenched. Your voice wanted to burst out. And what was your first reaction? To speak, to argue, to defend yourself, to fire back. That's instinct. But Stoics, those who live by the philosophy of Stoicism, don't act on instinct. They pause. Not because they don't feel angry. Not because they don't feel disrespected. But because they understand a deeper truth. Your anger might be valid, but your reaction to it might not be. Stoicism teaches us this. You can't control other people. But you can always control how you respond to them. That's the core of the Stoic mindset, something called the dichotomy of control. Seneca, one of the most well-known Stoic thinkers, once wrote, "We suffer not because of what happens, but because we believe it shouldn't have happened. We suffer because we try to control the uncontrollable." But Stoicism gently reminds us to return to the one thing we always own: our response. Silence isn't a loss of power. It's reclaiming power from emotional chaos. Picture this. You're a Roman soldier standing on a battlefield. Chaos all around. People screaming, some running, some attacking blindly. But you, the Stoic warrior, you don't get pulled in. You breathe. You hold your ground. You don't let the panic outside breach your peace inside. That's how Stoics see life. The world is an emotional battlefield. And if you want to stay centered, you have to learn to stand still in the middle of the storm. And to do that, you need one simple practice. Pause. Stoicism doesn't ask you to be emotionless. Stoics know you'll get angry. You'll get hurt. You'll feel disappointment. But you have a gift no one can take from you: the ability to choose your response. Epictetus once said, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose. Between someone hurting you and you reacting, there's a sliver of space. And in that space is where your freedom lives." Most people think power is about controlling others. Stoics say real power is controlling yourself, especially when no one else will. Silence, to a Stoic, isn't avoidance. It's timing. It's choosing when to speak and making it count. Have you ever seen someone walk into a room and say nothing, but their presence speaks volumes? That's the energy of someone who doesn't react on impulse. They don't yell. They don't overshare. They know who they are, and they don't need to prove it. In a world where everyone is racing to be heard, the one who pauses, who chooses their words, is the one who earns respect. Because here's the truth: people don't remember what you said. They remember how they felt when you were around. Someone full of restless energy creates tension. Someone who knows when to be silent creates safety. Stoicism doesn't make you cold. It makes you strong without being hard. Like bamboo in the wind. You bend, but you don't break. You stay rooted, flexible, calm. Always remember this. Not reacting doesn't mean not feeling. It means you don't let your feelings drive the wheel. Instead, you let calm, awareness, and compassion lead the way. Yes, you might be provoked. Yes, you might be misunderstood. Yes, you might be attacked with words. But you don't have to react. You can choose silence. You can choose patience. You can choose to respond with something deeper than emotion: understanding. To sum it up, Stoicism doesn't teach you to fake being okay. It teaches you how to truly be okay, from the inside out. It doesn't ask you to run from your emotions. It teaches you how to walk through them like an inner warrior. Up next in part 3. How do you become one of these silent warriors? What practices help you stay centered when the world is trying to pull you apart? Let's explore how to stop letting the world control your emotions and start becoming the calm in the storm. Part 3: Learning to become a silent warrior. There's an image that often appears in the teachings of Stoicism. A man stands in the eye of the storm. Around him, chaos, harsh words, misunderstandings, resentment. And yet, he remains unmoved. He doesn't lash out. He doesn't get rattled. He simply stands firm. That is the image of a Stoic. Not because he doesn't feel anything, but because he knows how to master himself. What do we call someone like that? Not a robot. Not cold. But a silent warrior. No armor, no weapons, no applause. Just inner strength, and a philosophy to anchor his heart in the middle of life's storms. So, what does Stoicism teach us about becoming that kind of warrior? Not through words, but through practice. Not during peaceful days, but in the messy, difficult, emotionally raw moments of life. Let's start with the 3 core principles of a practicing Stoic. 1. Pause to reclaim your power. Like John, the father we heard about earlier, a Stoic doesn't react right away. They pause, even just 3 seconds, before speaking, texting, or reacting. Why? Because they understand. Emotions are waves. If you speak while riding the peak of the wave, you'll be swept away. 3 seconds of silence won't change the world. But it can change you. It brings you back to the present. Back to your breath. Back to what you truly want to protect, your peace. 2. Act according to your values, not your emotions. Someone insults you, you could easily snap back. Someone misunderstands you, you could jump in and defend yourself. But a Stoic pauses and asks, what kind of person do I want to be? Does this reaction align with what I stand for? Would silence right now help me stay true to the person I'm trying to become? That's the difference between someone who's ruled by reflexes and someone who responds with intention. Stoics don't let emotions steer the wheel. They act from principles, like a warrior with honor. 3. Turn every situation into mental training. A Stoic doesn't fear discomfort. They see every difficult moment as inner practice. Someone annoys you? Right pointing arrow, practice patience. Someone insults you? Right pointing arrow, practice compassion. Someone hurts you? Right pointing arrow, practice self-reflection. Marcus Aurelius, Roman emperor and Stoic, once wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Obstacles don't block the path. They are the path. Silent warriors aren't born, they're forged, moment by moment, challenge by challenge. In a world that tells you to clap back fast. Say something now. Silence means weakness. The one who pauses, observes, and responds with thoughtfulness is the one who swims against the current. They're not trying to prove they're right. They're trying to live right, by their own code. And you know what the beautiful part is? You don't have to be someone special to start living like a Stoic. You can be a father, a mother, a student, a laid-off worker, a barista, a single parent. You can be someone who's been deeply hurt and still choose peace. All it takes is one question. Am I living by impulse, or by choice? Am I letting emotion drive, or am I holding the wheel? Remember, a true warrior doesn't need to prove their strength. Their calm is their declaration. You can start small. The next time someone irritates you, right pointing arrow, pause, breathe, and smile. The next time someone insults you, right pointing arrow, ask yourself, do I really need to react? The next time you feel the urge to argue, right pointing arrow, write it down before you say it out loud. Just one moment each day when you choose not to react right away is one step closer to becoming a warrior of your own mind. Up next in Part 4. Practice 3 Stoic exercises to master your reactions. Simple ways to apply Stoicism in daily life, even if you've never read a single book on philosophy. Part 4. Practice 3 Stoic exercises to master your reactions. Don't just read Stoicism, live it. Epictetus. You know what? Philosophy only becomes powerful when it moves from thought right pointing arrow to action right pointing arrow to habit. That's why I want to share with you 3 simple but powerful Stoic practices, tools you can use to start mastering your reactions today. You don't need to memorize quotes. You don't need a lot of free time. You don't need any complicated technique. All you need is 1 mindful minute plus a little courage to pause. Exercise 1. Pause. The3second miracle. Anger is a reflex, but silence is a choice. How it works. Next time you feel yourself heating up, pause. Don't reply to that message. Don't say the first thing that pops into your head. Don't post that comeback. Just stop for 3 seconds. And in those 3 seconds, take a deep breath in through your nose. Breathe out slowly through your mouth. Then ask yourself, is this reaction necessary? Does it actually serve what I care about? Why it works? Those 3 seconds interrupt the emotional autopilot. They bring you back to the driver's seat. Out of the storm. Back into control. Pro tip. Set your phone wallpaper to say, pause. Or write the word, wait, on your watch face or notepad. Exercise 2. What I control, the control journal. One of the most powerful ideas in Stoicism is the dichotomy of control, clearly separating what you can control from what you can't. How to do it? Each morning or evening, split a notebook page into 2 columns. What I can control, what I cannot control. My attitude, other people's attitude. My words, what they say about me. My actions, reactions, outcomes. Rumors, weather, etc. Why this matters. Most of our stress, frustration, and reactive behavior comes from trying to control what isn't ours to control. When you clearly see the boundary, you can stop wasting energy on the uncontrollable and reinvest it where your power actually lies. Pro tip. Post this chart by your desk. Look at it before every major decision or emotional conversation. Exercise 3. Stoic Journal, track your reactions. Marcus Aurelius, Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, journaled daily. Not for publishing. Not for praise. But to observe himself. How to do it? Each night, write answers to these 3 questions. 1. Was there anything today that triggered a strong reaction in me? 2. How did I respond? 3. If I could do it over, what would I choose instead? Just 5 minutes a day. But this simple habit helps you Reflect without judgment. Notice emotional patterns. Grow gradually into a calmer version of yourself. Pro tip: get a notebook just for this. Title it, The Inner Battlefield. Putting Stoicism into daily life. You don't need big life events to practice Stoicism. You can apply it in small moments. Like traffic jams. Instead of cursing, play your favorite podcast. Online arguments. Pause, and don't hit send. Work stress. Write down what's in your control, and what isn't. Family tension. Instead of yelling, ask yourself, what lesson do I want to teach right now? The key is, you don't need to be perfect. You just need to be consistent. You'll still slip up. There'll be days when you forget to pause, forget to journal, or snap like the old you. But you'll start noticing your patterns. And in that awareness, real growth happens, slowly, steadily. We don't rise to the level of our expectations, we fall to the level of our training. Archilochus, often quoted by Ryan Holiday. We don't act based on who we wish we were. We act based on how we've trained ourselves to respond, day after day. And in our final chapter, Part 5 Conclusion, Reaction or Freedom? A heartfelt message to help you reconnect with the journey of mindful living and realize true freedom starts from within. Part 5 Conclusion, Reaction or Freedom? We opened this episode with a simple question. Have you ever lost your temper over just one comment? And maybe, somewhere deep inside, you already knew your answer. We react because we're hurt. Because we feel misunderstood. Because we want to be seen, respected, and heard. Reactions are natural. No one had to teach us how to do that. It's wired into our nervous system. But here's the truth. Reaction is instinct. Choice is power. In a world that pushes you to respond immediately, to fire back, to prove your point, to be right at all costs, the moment you pause, observe, and respond with calm, you're doing something revolutionary. Think about the people you admire most in life. It's not the loudest voice in the room. Not the one who argues best or reacts fastest. It's the ones who show up with quiet strength. They don't need to say much. But when they speak, the room listens. And when they're silent, you still feel them. Because they don't react, they choose to respond. That's the real power of Stoicism. Not in fancy quotes or ancient texts, but in a sigh instead of a harsh word. A moment of stillness instead of an emotional outburst. A calm smile instead of a storm of rage. It's in the tiny, everyday moments where you choose stillness over reflex. Where you hold back the fire and protect your peace. You can't control everything in life. No one can. You'll be misunderstood. You'll be hurt. You'll face challenges, again and again. Stoicism doesn't promise that life will get easier. It only promises this. You will get stronger. No man is free who is not master of himself. Epictetus. You can't truly be free if you can't govern yourself. And self-mastery doesn't begin by changing the world. It begins with one deep breath, one quiet reflection at night, one pause before speaking. Freedom isn't doing whatever you want. Freedom is knowing exactly what you're doing and why you're doing it. And every time you choose not to react, you're choosing stability over panic, wisdom over impulse, compassion over revenge, and peace over a temporary victory. So next time you feel triggered, insulted, or wounded, remember this: you can choose silence. And sometimes, silence is the loudest voice you'll ever speak. As we close, if something in this episode stirred something inside you, share in the comments. When was the last time you reacted, and later realized you should have stayed silent? Tap like if this message brought value to your day. Subscribe so you won't miss the next episode in this Stoic journey. And if someone you know needs to hear this, send it their way. Next episode preview. No one's coming to save you, and that's the good news. We'll talk about self-reliance, ownership, and why you don't need someone to rescue you, because everything you need is already within. Thank you for spending this time with me. I'll see you soon, on this path toward presence, peace, and personal freedom.